With relative calm restored in Nigeria's northeast region, the next concern remains developing the area while maintaining the peace. That was the focus of a recent meeting at the U.S. Institute of Peace in Washington, where Channels Television's correspondent Myra Bird has more.
Key U.S. officials convened at the U.S. Institute for Peace to hold a press briefing about the upcoming Northern Nigeria Governors Symposium.
The symposium, which is part of a larger USIP program that really seeks to connect policymakers and civic actors to come together to try to think through inclusive and sustainable strategies that takes into account the views of citizens towards addressing the drivers of instability in the country.
Leaders such as Ambassador Johnny Carson and former Secretary Princeton Lyman have firsthand knowledge of the work in Nigeria, as they have worked directly with Nigerian political leaders.
Nigeria is the most important country in sub-Saharan Africa and arguably the most important country in all of Africa.
One of the ironies of Nigeria is that leaders of the North have played a consistently strong role in the national politics of Nigeria, and at the same time, the North is, by almost every measurement, well behind the rest of the country, whether it's employment, literacy, education, health, etc. So you've had a disconnect between political power and development, and it goes to the way both the economy has been run and the way the politics have been run in the past. I think the shock of Boko Haram and other developments in recent years is opening an opportunity, and we saw it in the previous governor's meeting here that Johnny mentioned, that things have to be done differently.
Stabilization in the North will be one of the main issues of focus during the symposium.
We expect that the USAID Director, Gail Smith, will meet with the governors. We'll have an opportunity to exchange views, share ideas and concerns with them, talk about some of the root causes and the drivers of instability across the North.
The press briefing gave the framework to the symposium, but awaits the actual symposium to give the resolutions to challenges that exist. From Washington, Maria Bird, Channels Television News.
Well, now to Kenya, where the government is embroiled in a legal battle with conservationists over the proposed construction of the standard gauge railway. Esther Githu-Yuwat has that story.
The deal to construct the railway was signed between Kenya and China in 2013, with Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta officially launching the construction.
Upon completion of the standard gauge railway line, transport costs in the region are expected to reduce by more than 60%. This in turn will spur expanded production and reduce the cost of goods and services. This dividend is the prize we seek for East Africa.
But public protests against the agreement continues to grow, with conservationists saying it will encroach on the wildlife. Ben Olekoisaba is a native of Kenya and a social development expert at Clemson University in South Carolina.
Economically, it's a great project, but one of the greatest challenges we have in development in Africa is we do not do adequate groundwork, we do not do adequate environmental and social impact assessments, because most of our projects are based on a political cyclical process that after every 5 years, whoever comes on the throne would want to leave a landmark. That brings in a lot of unintended consequences, as you can see on the railway.
Construction of the railway would also cut a swath of 6 kilometers through Nairobi's National Park, disrupting the wildlife.
Nairobi National Park is a tragedy. The Maasai gave out that land to conserve as a national heritage. You know, getting the railway crossing that place will curtail wildlife movements. We'll definitely have to have, because it's a fast train, it's going to have problems about probably even killing some of the animals. I mean, it's going to disrupt the ecosystem. And of course, you know, it's also going to pass through individual people's lands. These communities were not consulted. it's going to have an impact on their livelihoods too.
Animal rights activists and conservationists have been united in staging protests, and there are several court cases pending against the construction of the standard gauge railway.
Where are we at this point? Is this going to stop because of the protests, or is the railway going to be built as planned?
Definitely the government is going to push it down the throats of the people, because Kenya owes China $318 billion. It's going to be a very painful process for the government, for the investors, and for the communities that would want to be adequately involved in the design, in the plan, and even benefit sharing of the project.
You said there were no consultations, no groundwork done before the project started, and now there's all this disruption. What next? What is the middle ground in this project?
I believe if the government is serious, they need to invest in a consultative process.
Koisaba says if the courts rule in favor of constructing the railway, the consequences will be dire, and Kenya will lose the prestigious Nairobi National Park in the heart of the city that has been a source of tourism revenue for years. Esther Githu-Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
It's time to take a break, but before we go, a reminder to visit our website. It's channelstv.com for all the latest information day or night. You can also find us on youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come on Africa 54. A non-governmental organization is teaming up with young doctors to meet the health needs of rural people in Nasarawa State. Well, that story will come up after the break.